This is the Spyderco UK PK. I've got the Manly Wasp, the SOG Terminus, and then I have here another PK. This is the Enzo PK 70, and then one that wasn't really made for our market, but just turns out to be just about as good an everyday knife as you're going to get. So let's go through them in turn. This is the Spyderco. Now I only own one Spyderco. I mean, I own about 100 knives, and you'd think, looking at many collections, you'd probably expect at least 20 or 30 Spydercos. I don't, I own one. The reason is I don't really like Spydercos. I've only owned 2, I think, in my life. One I gave away to my wife because I liked it so much. She should have it. She lent it to somebody and they stole it. So maybe it was wanted by somebody. Now this is actually quite a nice version of this knife. Normally they make it in something like BDN1 or something like that, steel, which is, you know, okay. This was a special edition done by Heine Haynes, who are a British retailer. I suspect they're the biggest British retailer, but I don't know that, of knives. It's got G10 handles instead of the FRN, or what I would call plastic, and it's got the paperclip clip instead of, or the wire clip instead of the flat metal clip. So that's, you know, these are all nice features. The G10 is quite thick, but unsupported, but it doesn't feel weak, partly because you've got, unlike the normal versions of this, you have a full length back spring. Normally the UK PK only has a short back spring. It comes in S30V steel. I've never sharpened it because I've never actually had any need to, because I haven't used it enough to get it blunt. It's got the Sal Glasser logo on the blade by the Spidey hole, and as you can see here, it's made in Golden, Colorado, USA, Earth. On the other side we have some other markings. Spyderco CPM S30V, so that's Crucible Steel's S30V steel, which is, to my mind, it's sort of the standard everyday steel these days, and it's perfectly good, and I wouldn't knock it ever. It's got the Heine Haynes H, and further up there on the blade you have the Spyderco spider symbol. It's a perfectly good knife. Next knife is the Manly Wasp. Now I have 2 of these, but I gave one to my son. You'll see why in a minute. Again, this is a Heine Haynes edition, and that's why it's got the red scales. They do it in various colours: black, orange, green, and camouflage colour as well. One of the things about this knife that I'll struggle to show you, but I shall do my best. I've opened the knife to the first half stop, so it's not really a half stop. Then it has second half stop, third half stop, then a fully open blade. Now that's all a bit weird for me, but that's the way they rock. Now, markings on the blade here, we have, oops, my hand out of the way. We have Wasp and H. Now the Wasp and H are not on the standard versions. All you have on the standard versions is the little flower symbol just by the ricasso there, and the other bit, which is probably the most important reason why people carry this knife, and the reason why I gave one to my son, S90V. So this is a UK legal foldable pocket knife without a lock. It's got the 4 half stops, which are quite useful in. So this has G10 scales again. They are lined with steel, skeletonized, and most importantly, you can take this knife to pieces by simply removing some of these screws and clean it out, get all the grits and dirt. With my son's a landscape gardener, you know, really, it needs that for him. If I gave him an ordinary pocket knife, it would end up in a horrible state. His ends up in a horrible state anyway. I have to sharpen it quite regularly, because even though it's S90V steel, it still goes blunt, because he uses it a lot. It has a clip's fairly plain. I've heard people criticise the clips because if you catch them you can bend them out. My son has suggested to me that he'd probably rather take the clip off it. Now the other problem with these knives is that this screw in the middle does like to work loose, and in my son's one it just fell out, and trying to get another one has been a nightmare. Heine Haynes don't want to take it back as a warranty claim. They say it's not covered under the warranty, and I can't get a reply out of Manly, who are simply asked to send me another screw. I even offered to pay for it. Didn't get me anywhere. Anyway, that's the Manly Wasp, which is as good a everyday work knife as you're going to get in the UK. Now, the next knife is the one that comes along very much, I feel, in the same category, in that it's a very similar size, shaped knife, but in other ways it is completely different to the Wasp. So we have, this is made by SOG, and just in case you missed it, it's carved into there, it's carved into the other side, oops, and it's also carved into the lanyard clip, the pocket clip, so when it's in your pocket, anybody that knows anything about knives will see that exactly, not that you have, not just that you have a knife, but that you have a SOG knife. Now, unlike this is a similar construction to the Wasp in that you've got G10 scales over a metal liner, only these liners aren't nested. The Wasp ones are nested, so you can't actually see them. You have to sort of look around inside until you see them. These show on the outside, so it's just a slab on a slab, and then you have a backspacer, which is a slab, and unusually this is an open design of a knife. You can actually see clean through it. Clean through the other side, and that means that instead of having a traditional back spring for a locking or a securing mechanism, this has a wholly different sort of system that's in there. Now, the other thing about this is it's got a, they put a lot of work into making that blade be what it is. Marking on there, CTS BD1, that's the tool steel, and there's a little picture of a skull with a military berry on it. So it's giving you the military sort of look and the death look. That in itself actually could potentially make it illegal in here. They don't, in this country, they don't like military or death themes. If it was zombie themes are specifically outlawed. Make of that what you will. Also, the quite aggressive jimping on the back also is specifically marked as, they don't like sawbacks or aggressively marked knives with aggressive teeth on the back. What they were trying to get at there was Rambo style knives, I think. But I don't know. The people that wrote the laws in this country don't really know much about knives, I don't think. Anyway, on here we've got SOG Terminus. As I say, they've spent quite a lot of work in there getting this blade with different shapes to it. I mean, basically it's a sabre grind with a swedge and a clip point. So overall, I mean, it does make for certainly a nice looking knife. But in terms of, is it as good a knife to use as the Wasp? Not a bit of it. But it looks nicer. And that tan colour goes quite nicely with the jeans and things. Now, this here has been my favourite knife on my channel for a long, long time. And it probably still would be my number one recommendation. The downside is that it is almost unavailable now, which is a crying shame, because it's relatively easy to open, even with my dodgy hands. It fits nicely in the hand. Let's get this in the hand properly. It's a nice knife. It's a nice knife. It's got a Finnish puukko style blade. It's a very traditional style in Finland for a knife. but it's modern, thoroughly modern. It has a clip. Although I have a pocket clip. I have 3 of these. I've taken the clip off one of them, and that's the one I've been using most of late. And actually, I think I prefer it without the clip. I just put it in a little slip in my pocket, same way I do with all my other knives, and I put a little lanyard on that one. Anyway, as a satin blade, it's marked on this side Enzo, and oops, if I can get the angle. It's quite sharp, so I don't want to take my fingers off. I'm just inclined to do that. CPM S30V again, which, as I said before, is a steel that I really quite like. This particular one has titanium bolsters and G10 crowned G10 scales. The most important thing with these ones is the fit and finish is just out of this world. I mean, they're made in the Taichung factory in Taiwan that Spyderco use as well. You almost, you need a magnifying glass to see where the liners run into the back spring, and there are zero gapping between the scales and the liners. Compared with most sort of traditional knives that you might buy, the fit and finish is just. I mean, this is not a bad one, but if you look towards where my thumb is there, you can see little bits of gapping, and that's not a bad knife. But this one is just absolutely perfect. Right, and the final one I'm going to show you today is this one. This is the JE made Lanny's clip. Now, the Lanny's clip was a knife designed by a guy, I believe, called Tony Bowes, who invented this for his friend Lanny back in, I think, the 1960s as a custom knife. There was originally there was a run done with case knives, a limited edition one, which is actually, it's a very nice knife if you ever come across one and get the opportunity to buy one. It has a really nice positive action, very stiff blade, which I struggle to open sometimes, but you've got plenty to get hold of in that you've got that hole instead of a nail neck, which obviously goes all the way through to the other side, so it means you've got something to grab for a pinch on both sides. Now, this is a beautifully made knife. Again, titanium. Now, these are integrated bolsters and liners, and then they're machined out, and then the carbon fibre is fitted into them, which is a relatively difficult way to make knives. It adds to the cost, but it also adds to the strength of them. This has the kind of copperhead type bolster which hides the tang of the knife when the blade is folded, which is quite nice. It's got the typical Lanny's clip blade, which each piece of it, this curve in the ricasso here, the shape here in front of what was originally a nail nick on the original knives, but these curves here are quite specific. The slight recurve in the back. Now, the original ones have a bit more of a recurve in the lower part of the swedge here. Now, this one doesn't really so much, but this is just a beautiful knife. They're a bit pricey, I'm afraid. They're a little over £200 now, which is, when this is only 130 and these are sort of 60, 50 and 70. It is quite expensive, but I personally think it's worth every penny, and it's one of my most used and carried knives. Now it's right up there with the Enzo PK70. So they're 5 good quality work knives that you can buy and legally carry in the UK today. So anyway, thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this, please feel free to tick the like box, and also to subscribe and ring the little bell if you'd like to see more of these.